Welcome to A Gallen of Questions. My name is Pat Gallen, and this week's guest is actually a teammate of ours here at CBS Philadelphia. You can see him on the Sports Zone with myself and Don Bell after Eagles games. He had some of the best hands in the NFL, maybe in the history of the league, certainly with the Philadelphia Eagles. Played a decade in the league, made some incredible catches with those hands. Jason Avant is our guest. Had a great career in Philadelphia, also spent some time in Kansas City, again, at the end of his career with Andy Reid. But we hit a number of things here on A Gallen of Questions, including the Eagles' defense, what he thinks of Jalen Hurts, what it was like growing up in Chicago, and also in light of the team meeting that the 76ers just had, what was the most difficult team meeting Jason Avant ever had? As always, he's the best, has some great hands and some great answers. Here is Jason Avant on A Gallen of Questions. Do you remember your best game as an Eagle?
Ooh, I don't know what the best game as an Eagle would be. If you're talking statistically, it would probably be San Diego. But
okay.
When it comes to just, I think my best game I've had was the 2008 playoff game versus the Giants because of all the significant catches in that game. Those meant more to me than stats. It was the critical situation. If I didn't play well that game, we wouldn't have won at all because there was a time where the wind was blowing, it was cold, nobody could catch the ball, and so they depended on me to keep the offense going for a significant portion of that game.
See, that's exactly what I was going for because I knew that San Diego game, you had like 150-some yards.
Yeah.
I figured there's got to be a different game that meant something a little bit different.
More, yeah.
So 2008 playoffs, yeah, that's a great answer. I love that.
Yeah.
That Giants Stadium, man, always nuts up there.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What was it like playing with Michael Vick? Because I actually saw, every so often on Twitter or Instagram, there will be a video of Michael Vick doing crazy things, and this one happened to be with the Eagles, and then he scores a touchdown, and right after that you go up to him and ask him or say something to him, and I was wondering what that was, so I text you. But what was it like playing with that guy?
Michael is special, man, and the only thing I wish that we would have had him, from his rookie year. Coach Reid would have had him because I think Mike would be a surefire Hall of Famer and probably multiple-time Super Bowl winner if Coach Reid would have had him younger. But just a dynamic playmaker, very tough ball to catch, Mike, because it came in the opposite way. Most people don't understand that left-hand English makes you turn your hands the opposite way. So a lot of guys can't catch that pass, so you had to get comfortable and used to that pass. But just as far as him making plays, we knew that if he was behind there, just keep running and he'll find you. So it was definitely a special moment. It was a surreal moment because most of us grew up playing a video game with him, right? So playing with him was like, dude, Michael Vick is our quarterback. It just reminded us of, early teenage years of being Michael Vick fans.
So that's awesome that you mentioned how the ball comes out as a lefty. You have caught a pass from a lot of different quarterbacks. Did his ball just feel different?
Yeah, first of all, Mike had the ability to throw the ball as hard and he's the strongest arm I've ever played with. So if he threw the ball as hard as he could, no one would be able to catch it. Right. So he had to naturally take things off. And he learned that down in Atlanta toward the end of his career because Roddy White was on his way out of the league because he couldn't catch Mike Vick's pass. He had a lot of drops, and then he went on to have a great career with Matt Ryan because Mike Ryan threw a more, catchable ball. And Mike learned later in his years to dial it back a notch. And, but yes, it's tough catching a left-hander. There's many guys that was cut because they couldn't catch it.
That's wild. But you had some of the greatest hands of all time, so it served you pretty well. All right. Can you recall, I bring this question up because the 76ers just had a team meeting. Some say it was some sort of blowout. It was about an hour after they lost a game recently. So my question to you is, can you recall the most intense team meeting you were ever a part of?
Oh. Most of
stood out where
most of my teams, I can't remember. Oh, probably after the Riley Cooper racial thing, that was an intense team meeting because that was so. It was such a like a I wouldn't say a divide, but it was a very, very tough time. So that Chip Kelly, Riley Kelly, that whole incident right there with Chip Kelly and Riley Cooper, that situation was very intense and tough. We had to break guys up from fighting, and it was crazy. So that was intense because that was, racially motivated and charged. And when you're dealing with, 70%, African-American locker room, that doesn't go over well. So there was multiple fights, when it came to that. So that was pretty intense.
Wow. And how do you remember how long after that video came to light? Like how long after it was you guys met, got together to talk about it?
Oh, that was like maybe the next team meeting. That was the next team meeting.
Okay.
That was a tough thing because I was a team captain, me, D'Amico Ryan, and a few other, Michael Vick, I think, was the team captain. And in that moment, you had to overlook the history of America and just deal with what was going on in the moment and then put yourself in that situation, which made all of us stronger because we chose the path of forgiveness rather than holding it over a guy's head. And he was able to get a contract and make some good money for his family. But if we would have, went after him, he sure would have been fired. So that moment was very volatile.
Wow. Yeah. I remember it well. I remember being on Sports Talk Radio at that time, and the phones lit up. Everybody had an opinion about what was going on there, and it was certainly a tough time, and you were right in it. Okay, this one's about Nick Sirianni. He is 8th all-time in winning percentage among coaches. Does that shock you, or does that not shock you?
No, it doesn't shock me. Remember, we're overreaction type of fan base. So Philly, if something goes wrong and the team is not playing up to standard according to the Super Bowl standard that was set, so when it comes to Nick Sirianni and everyone needs a fall guy, so when the team, loses 6-7 straight last year, people are going to pile up on the coach. This is the same city, and I love this city, but was impatient with Coach Andy Reid and going to be, arguably the top 3 greatest coaches in the history of football. Sure. So I don't underestimate anything, when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to Nick Sirianni, yeah, I can believe that because he has a good team, has a good veterans, had Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox. He had a great transition from Doug with a lot of good players, and he does a good job. The team plays for him, and I think he's a player's coach to the point that even though it's quirky and just funny to us, it goes over well with the team.
What was life like growing up in Chicago?
I grew up really tough. Chicago is one of those make it or break it type of places. I grew up, I'm a South Side kid, a lot of gangs, a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, all of that stuff. And if it wasn't for my grandmother, Lily Avant, she caused me to think differently. She always told me what I could be. And she wouldn't allow negative things to infiltrate my mindset or deviate me from my path. So I needed her in order to be successful. And so that's how I was able to overcome it, is because her prayers, her just speaking positive affirmations over me. And before you know it, I began to believe it. And I used to make people in my neighborhood so mad because I had this positivity and this belief that I can do anything, and it was unwarranted. But it was like I was brainwashed that nobody else could tell me that I couldn't. And that caused me to be successful. And it came to do just with my grandmother just speaking like positive over me and just instilling it in me.
That's amazing. Did you have a nickname for your grandmother?
No, just Lily Mae. There's her name.
Just Lily Mae. Well, thank you, Lily Mae, for that. All right. We just talked about your hands, but why or how did you have such great hands?
First of all, I always say that it's God-given talent, and then you have to cultivate it. I remember years and years, like there's challenges at Michigan, right? So when I went to University of Michigan, there's like the anvil challenge, like, like the anchor, like you grab the tip of it and it's like a horn almost. And this thing weighs, I don't know, 350, 400, and you got to like try to pick it up, and you got to try to like, it's all of these different challenges around the weight room, and that your name can be on a plaque if you pick it up. And there's not many guys that can do it. So you try your best to get your hands strong enough, rice bucket, curls, whatever it is, try to get this envelope. I was never able to do it. Only lineman was able to, but I tried my best. And so that makes your hands really strong. And then I always loved, I would say for every pass I caught in the NFL, I probably caught at least 150. Just practice passes. For every one.
Practice.
Wow. For every one catch, I probably caught 150. So different angles. And so you never catch the ball down the center line of your body because that's the easiest catch. You turn your brain off a lot of times. I always tried to catch the hardest passes, low and away, outside, because those are the ones that are applicable to the game.
Do you have a favorite catch? Is it that one that was like way over your head along the sideline?
That a lot of people love that catch from Tampa. I made one similar in San Diego. Yeah. But no, my favorite catch. Let's see. That's a pretty good one. That's a good one. That's spectacular. But there's harder catches than that. Like I caught one against San Francisco at home on like a third down, and it was low. Navarro Bowman was hitting me. I barely got two hands on it, and it was in between his legs, and so I caught it in between his legs, and he was hitting me, and everybody's like, "Dude, how in the hell did you catch that pass?" Like I remember things like that, like hard, like those are hard. It's not always the ones that are one-handed. It's the ones that are extremely tough or in critical moments. If it was a fourth down, a third down, and a critical moment, that was more important to me than a one-hand catch.
I love that.
Yeah.
Such a great answer. All right, back to this Eagles team. For the Eagles to make the Super Bowl, Jalen Hurts has to blank.
Ooh. I gotta. It can't be just one thing. So I would say that Jalen has to anticipate more. I think he needs to anticipate and understand who's going to be open, who has the higher probability of being open based on the coverages. And I think that he reads and reacts, and because of that, it causes him to be late a lot of times rather than being proactive and eliminating targets beforehand so you can get to the right answer at the right time. So I think he needs to anticipate throws more. I would also love to see Kellen Moore give Jalen a little bit more autonomy, because last game against the Commanders, in the past few games, there's clear coverage mismatches with A.J. Brown. Everybody else is pressed. A.J.'s off, but he goes to the press side, which is a lot harder. A.J.'s off, but it's not a great route. So give Jalen the ability to check A.J. into a route that will give him the advantage. And that's what Jalen was doing in 2022. I remember the Commanders game where Devontae Smith went crazy down there in Washington. That game where he was, catching touchdowns left and right, down the field throws. Jalen had the ability to check plays, and he's not doing that now. He has two plays where he can kill it, but he's not changing the play. And that's what I would like to see Jalen do more of. So anticipate and be able to change the plays.
No, I'm glad you said anticipate, because watching some of the All-22 film, you can see that he is not anticipating. He sometimes locks in a little too hard on one guy that he likes, and so that's a great answer by you. If you hadn't played football, what would you be doing right now?
I would probably be a clinician or a therapist. I was in School of Social Work. I was accepted into University of Michigan's master's program for sociology, and that probably would have led me down the path of psychology or something like that. So that was my interest in college, and I still do that and give back to the kids. And so that's what I'll probably be doing along with dancing. I still do that now.
Heck yeah. A lot of dancing videos, man. We see Jason Avant with those feet. We love it. Does Howie Roseman belong in the Hall of Fame?
Ooh. I think it's going to take another Super Bowl, but I think he's going to get it. I think what Howie has been able to overcome, the whole Chip Kelly down thing, the whole Dream Team thing, and then he has a hit on a few more draft picks. So if you look at since like 2014 or whenever, 2014, 2015, 10-year run, the number of Eagles draft picks that have made the Pro Bowl is like 7%. So he's hit on free agents. He has to hit on some of these draft picks. But a Super Bowl and a few more draft picks they hit, I think he'll be in there. So, yes, do I think he will? I think he will, because I think the Eagles are an organization that strives for a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And he's still pretty young
in
the league. So
he's
got some time to accumulate all those wins.
He does a great job. Like he fleeces teams left and right, especially with free agency. I think he's better at free agency than the draft, but his draft is starting to get better.
All right, when you watch wide receivers play, what do you look at or look for?
Oh, my first thing that I see when I see wide receivers, you look at size, and you look at skill set, but the ability to make a guy move out of their spot. I think that's the one thing that doesn't change with time. So if a guy can manipulate his body to make a guy think he's going left and that guy moves left, and then he can have a straight path down the field, that guy is sort of like Tim Duncan. He can play forever using fundamentals, right? So even when his skill set and his jumping ability or his speed diminishes, he's still going to be able to play for a long, long time because he's learned the nuance of making guys move out of their spots. So that's the one thing that I look at first. Then I look at, okay, how does he catch balls in traffic? Because that's a good indicator how elite his hands is. It's not open catches. It's the ones where it's contested, how he does that. And then, and how does he play, with size? What's his skill set as far as is he small guy? Is he quick? How does he get open? So those are some of the things that I look at. But the number one thing is that can he make a guy move, out of his spot? And usually guys that can make you move out of the spot are kind of elusive types. Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, all of those guys make you move. They run straight lines. They move over to the left at the beginning, but then they end up running straight lines. And that's the game of football. Whoever runs the straightest lines usually win.
I see a little of that, obviously, in A.J. Brown because he's one of the best, but that little shake he's got at the line moves that guy's feet across from him. He's excellent at that.
Devontae does it too. Devontae gets moved a little bit because of his size, but he does a good job of holding his line.
They are two of the best. Who is the most talented player, college or pro, you ever played with?
Ooh. Oh, dang.
Could it be Michael Vick?
Most talented? Michael Vick is going to be up there, but there are some talented players, man. Sean Andrews was super talented. Like, if Sean Andrews had the mental, focus as a Brian Dawkins or a Brian Westbrook or something like that, he'll be the best guard, one of the best guards in history. So there's a lot of talented guys. I'm not going to say the best guy. The most talented, Michael Vick is going to be in that conversation. Deshaun will be in that conversation. Jason Peters would be in that conversation. Leonard Weaver would be in that conversation. There's a bunch of guys like Jason Kelsey. Like, those are guys that are just super freak athletes. Travis Kelsey for his size. I play with Travis Kelsey. Luke Keek. Like, there's guys that are super athletic and just super talented that you just like, dude, if God gave me that, I'll be in the Hall of Fame. That's why I tell Deshaun all the time, dude. If God
did not expect. No, go ahead.
I used to tell Deshaun that all the time. Dude, if I had your ability, I'd be in the Hall of Fame. I used to do that to piss him off.
I did not expect to hear Sean Andrews or Leonard Weaver in that answer, but that's fantastic.
Yeah,
you
like,
don't
there's
often think of those guys, but they were.
Yeah, no, they're ultra talented. Could be injury, could be mental focus. It could be a lot of DRC. DRC can do anything. Like, windmill underneath the leg dunk. Like, there's guys that are super talented. You just wish that they always had the focus, because you're young and you got a lot of money, and there's girls, and there's, the next Bentley, and it's all these things, and it makes you lose your focus when you're 24, 25. Sure. You know what I mean? So.
Sure. All right, we got a few more. We'll try to run through them as quickly as we can. What has made Vic Fangio's defense so good?
The implementation of Cooper Dejean, the ability to use guys at what they are good at and not what their potential is. So Nakobe Dean, you want him to be the starting Mike, and you want him to do blah, this and that. But no, he's better rushing. He's better being downhill. He's not as good being passive and letting linemen get up to him. So, and also limiting Jordan Davis's snaps and making him, run situation only, and not making him live up to the potential of a top 10 pick. Knowing that Bryce Huff is a high-paid player, but limiting his snaps because his play doesn't dictate that. I just think that Vic Fangio has made the right moves for this team, and it's not based on political correctness. It's based on the guy's skill set, and he's using it to their best ability.
Thanks to my friend Jason Avant, the former Eagles wide receiver, and as I said, our teammate here at CBS Philadelphia, just knows the game inside and out, and you can tell from that interview. My name is Pat Gallen. This has been a Gallen of Questions. Thanks for hanging with us.